Hello, and thanks so much for tuning in to Clear into Balance. My name is Jamie, and on this channel, I remind you that you are a powerful spirit having this human experience, and therefore you have the potential to create or change anything you want. Today, I want to talk about this concept of geriatric pregnancy. Now, this is a topic that came to me as I've been contemplating birth, women's ability to birth a spirit into this world from the non-physical reality and the power that comes with that, and also looking at the other side of why a woman's power is sometimes squashed in those moments, and asking questions around why this is, especially related to the concept of geriatric pregnancy though, because I think that term alone is just very demeaning and very just strange that it's used for people 35 and above who get pregnant and have babies. Upon thinking about this, like, my spirit gave me such a huge aha moment one day, and I'm sharing that here with you because I think it's a pretty big deal. And this is probably going to resonate with you more if you're aware of this reality that we're living in and the true nature of it and the true nature of yourself as a spirit having this human experience. So what came through was that it's really a way to disempower women, which is really a way to disempower the human race. And when I say this, it's, if you think about it, we're really encouraged to have babies young, okay? Most of the time, and before now, people would generally having kids in their 20s, right? And it's talked about like, oh, you have more energy then. It's like you're younger, your body can bounce back then. All of these things, less risks, blah, blah, blah. All the reasons we've been told that that's the best time to have kids. What came up when I started asking these questions and getting curious was the idea that what if we're told to have kids in our 20s because we're fresh out of the program? When you're fresh out of school, you're literally fresh out of getting programmed for all those years prior that you've been going to school. And you've been taught what the systems, the government wants you to know. And you come out and think of it. Usually you don't know yourself. You don't know what you like. You don't know your own desires. You don't know what your dreams are. A lot of the time, like, I know for me, when I was getting out of high school, I really just made shit up to figure out my major by saying like, okay, well, I love the ocean and I love animals. I'm going to go major in marine biology. That was literally the thought process that I had when I chose my major for college. And looking back, it's terrible. It's a terrible way to choose to go to school for that, because I had no concept of what I was actually going to use that degree for. And I really think in 2025, when I'm making this video, it is so important that if you are gonna go to school, especially if you're gonna take out loans, if you're gonna go into debt that can last nearly your lifetime, by the way, so be mindful of that you choose based on what you actually want to use the degree for. Because if you're just choosing because you think college is gonna be some big payoff that high school's not gonna get you, that it's gonna lead you to some kind of job or something, or just like the ability to apply to jobs easier, to be taken more seriously by your family or employers, you're way off base at this point. And if someone's telling you this, it's just not true anymore in this day and age. So it's really important to know that you need a degree for whatever it is that you feel so passionately to do. And I don't mean the thing that you think is going to get you the most money, because in the end, money doesn't equate people with happiness, okay? We've seen that through people who have acquired loads of abundance and then are still unhappy. If your path to money is just simply a career to get that money, you're not going to be happy later on when you attain that goal. So be really mindful that what you actually want to do is something that your heart's telling you to do, that your spirit is guiding you to do, that you feel really passionately about, that you would do even if you didn't make any money. That's what you want to follow. And now if it puts you on a path to, say, being a lawyer, for instance, well, you need a degree for that. So go ahead and go to school and get your degree for that, knowing that you want to use that to follow your passion to be a lawyer. But if you're just choosing arbitrarily based on your interests right now, and you don't even know how that degree is going to manifest anything that you're really wanting in life, then I urge you to not just follow that blindly. So here we are, we're fresh out of school, right? And most of us haven't had time to really think for ourselves, to be on our own, to be with our thoughts, because now everybody's so distracted by screens, TVs, computers, phones, all of these things, constant screen time, constant distractions from the outside, social media, that I'd say kids now have even less time on their own to just be and think and feel, most importantly, into what their next step should be. That is a prime time to get kids to sign up for lifelong debt. That is a prime time to get women, girls, to have babies, because you're fresh in the programming. The chances of you going and following along with the medical system and doing whatever your doctors say is really high, because that's what you've been doing pretty much your whole life, following what your parents said, following what your teacher said. It makes you a good follower. So chances are, if you're having kids in your 20s, most of the time you're going to be okay with following right into the medical system that says you need to give birth this way on our clock, and most won't question that, because that's what you're used to. And why would you do anything different? It's for your benefit, and it's the best way possible, right? That's what we're told. So when you come out and you don't know yourself, and then you go straight into having kids, and you still don't know yourself, and you're just doing and following along with the medical system, and then you're following along with the school system, it keeps everybody in line. It keeps everybody in the programming, which is what the powers that be want, to keep us from realizing our own power as a spirit, from realizing our ability to create and manifest anything that we want. So going back to the topic of geriatric pregnancy, why are 35-year-olds called geriatric? Think about it. I know that they tell us that it's because the risks go up and fertility goes down and all of this, right? But don't you see that that's all nonsense? Because look around. There are women giving birth in their 40s more and more. And I just read a title of some article, and I didn't go digging because I don't really care, that the amount of women having babies in their 40s has now surpassed teenage moms in the United States. People have had babies in their 50s. If you're new to my channel, go back and watch the videos where I talk about the importance of our beliefs and how our beliefs shape our reality. If all along our path we're fed the notion that fertility drops and risks go up, what are we going to get in our reality? We get what we believe in this reality. No exceptions. No exceptions. So if you're spoon-fed this information that tells you one thing, even when you see things contrary to that, even when people see something contrary to that, where clearly loads of women are having babies fine in their 40s, people will still attack that and be like, oh, but they're going to be so old when the kids get older. And it's like, yeah, but it's more risk. And, you're taking away your kids' parents at a young age because you're going to die. And all these things. People will jump in with loads of programming to deflect a reality that doesn't fit with their program. And I think, as I get older, I realize power comes with age. Power comes with age, especially when you've taken the time to do the inner work and you're clearing out your old traumas, you're facing your own things, your own issues, you're clearing them out, you become a clearer and clearer vessel for your own spirit to operate through. What's this do for you? Well, it's very empowering and it makes you question everything. So there is no program that I've been put through that exists anymore within me, because I've seen the falsity behind those now to the point where it's just I can see the programming. Once you can see the programming, it can't affect you anymore. That's why questioning everything is so important in this reality, is because it leads you to the bigger truths. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. Once you realize what the programming is and what it's gearing you towards, which is just control, population control, mental control, enslavement in jobs and systems to keep you indebted for life so that you never wake up to your true potential as a spirit having this human experience. When you realize all of that, you can't unsee it. So going back to this whole notion of geriatric pregnancy, it's laughable, okay? I once worked with a life coach who said she was a coach for old souls. And she noticed something in her practice was that so many people typically would wake up around 35 years old. 35, 36 years old seems to be sort of a magic number where a lot of people become aware of what's actually going on in this reality and start asking deeper questions and realizing that they're a spirit having this human experience. They start getting, more curious. And I think it's because it's funny, the nature of the program actually starts to tear itself down, because when you go and you follow the model that they've given us of you go to school, you get a degree, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, you get the house, you get the car, all these things. When you follow that all the way through, you realize there's no fulfillment in that. There's no fulfillment in following a path that somebody else has handed you. So yeah, 35 or so, you start really looking around your life and realizing what am I doing? What am I doing with my life? Maybe you start realizing that the partner that you chose earlier on is not the one that you want to spend your life with, that you aren't even compatible with this person. You don't want the same things maybe. You maybe are at a job that you just really don't like. You're dissatisfied with so many areas of your life. You start being able at that point to look around more truthfully and start questioning everything. And when you start questioning everything, the answers start coming, because your spirit will line all of it up. The universe will line all of it up for you. It's really interesting. You'll get signs, you'll get synchronicities. You'll get to a place where you just can't even stand it, to the point where it's you have to leave the marriage or you have to leave the job because it's making you so unhappy, or you start feeling the pull of it on your energy. It almost becomes your life becomes unbearable as it is, and you're forced to make changes. It's a very powerful time in this human experience. So then what does the medical system come along and say? That if you want to have a baby then, at this most powerful time in your life, in this human experience, when maybe you've stepped into your power, like I'm sure a lot of these women in their 40s have experienced. I know I have. When you fully step into your power and you want to have a baby, the powers that be don't like that, okay? They don't want you teaching your kids what you've come to learn. They don't want you guiding your kids to follow their own heart, which is following their own spirit. They don't want you and your kids to be living free outside of the system. That's why it's so much more difficult to create your own business, to have your own land, They're making it more and more difficult for you to own things of your own and create something unique and individual to you. Yet, all of the things that were put in place to control information, like the internet, for instance, and social media that was sort of guided to put us all in this funnel to where they could feed us the information they want us to know, also ends up being for our benefit. That's the beauty of the system, is that you can't hold human spirits down. You just can't. Eventually we break free. And when we break free and we have a baby, when we're in that power, when we're realizing that we are a spirit having this human experience, when we realize the power in birthing another spirit into this reality, when we realize the power of bringing someone into this reality and keeping them sovereign by not having them have a birth certificate, by not enrolling them in the funded schools, when we have a baby at those ages where we're more in tune with our own spirit and more in tune with ourselves, it's powerful. And there's a movement towards that right now. And a lot of women are rebelling against the system and what they've been told because they're realizing their power. And they're not willing anymore to give their power away to a system outside of themselves that seeks to squash that power, that seeks to control them through telling them that there are things wrong with their body, right? I think so many untruths get told to women who are having babies in the hospital because of C-section rates and doctors' watches and them being more concerned about the timing and getting it over with than the care, the true care for the woman and her baby. I saw that as a nurse in the hospital firsthand when we would get report in the morning on a postpartum floor and they would say, oh, we don't have any C-sections scheduled. But then they'd start rattling off the doctors that were on call for that day. And we all knew there were certain doctors, one I'm thinking of especially, but there were several. We knew there would be loads of C-sections that day, which meant increased care, increased checks, increased time on our part to take care of those moms, because when you have major surgery, you need more care and attention. So it was a lot more demanding on nurses to have C-sections than to have vaginal delivery patients because of that need for constant checks and pain control, things like that. A lot of what we're told in this reality just is not true. That has to go with the medical system, every system that you can think of in place. So, when you realize the power of yourself as a spirit having a human experience, blows the top off of this reality, because you don't need school to educate you on things. You have your spirit that has all knowledge of the entire universe within it. It's time we start trusting that. And it's time we stop accepting what's been told to us and start realizing instead what we're truly capable of in this life. And as women, so many are waking up to their power and they're not willing to give it away anymore. And a lot of women are having babies outside of the medical system. They're not getting checks during pregnancy. They're not having somebody attend their birth. And, that's the way we used to give birth. That's the way it used to be. And I know people will chime in with, mothers dying during birth and all of these things, and issues with the baby being detected early and being able to know all these things ahead of time is for our benefit. And sure, sometimes there are instances where that's important, but most of the time, pregnancy and birth are not medical conditions. They are natural human conditions that do not need interventions by doctors who are too concerned about how much time it's taking than they are about the well-being and health of their patients. They were concerned so much about the health and well-being of their patients, then nurses wouldn't see that there are more C-sections when certain doctors are on call, okay? And That's not what the woman is told during labor, okay? It's never going to be on there that the doctor was rushed, that he wanted to speed things along. That's never going to be anywhere in the notes, okay? It's going to be things like failure to progress. It's going to be things like pelvis too small, anatomy, anatomy not, what is it? Like conducive for natural birth, mother's anatomy not conducive for natural birth, cervical lip like getting in the way, and all of these things. All of that is just indications of a woman's body that she doesn't feel safe and that she's being rushed through the process. Because when women are allowed to birth naturally in their own flow, in the flow of their baby, they don't have those issues. And yeah, I think we're going to be hearing more and more about this, but this was just a huge aha moment for me, realizing that, right when you're in your most power, when you're waking up to this reality and who you truly are, women are being given this title of geriatric, which I think is just demeaning and sort of squashes that power, or attempts to. It attempts to. It squashes your power if you let it. And when I have more kids in the future, I'm not allowing for any of that. I'm not going to anyone that's going to be talking about any of that. Not letting that anywhere near me or my unborn baby. So anyway, all right. Well, take care. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great day.